Hi, it's Sarah here and welcome to my channel. In this video, we are gonna be getting some cleaning done because I need to for the sake of my mental health and for the sake of the cleanliness of our home. But because I love books so much, I wanna talk about books with you, so enjoy. First, I want to talk to you about some of my favorite books that I've read. The first one is, in really no particular order, The House in the Cerulean Sea, which is a fantasy, romance, magical realism, LGBTQIA plus book. I'm basically just going to give you the genres because it's too much to describe all of these. I also loved the ACOTAR series, which many know as A Court of Thorns and Roses, and many people have read this. I feel like I'm a little late to the game, but it's just super popular. It's a romance fantasy / romantasy. I loved it. The second book was my favorite. I actually have a whole video about this series, like me reading it and just like full spoilers and everything. So if you want to check that out, you should definitely go and click that up above. Then I also loved the book Think Again, which is a nonfiction / self-help / personal development book. It was amazing. I am not somebody who usually likes nonfiction or especially self-help books, but I loved this book. It's rated so well on Goodreads. I highly recommend checking it out. Then I also loved Every Last Word, which is a young adult contemporary romance book about mental health. They're in high school, and it was truly amazing book. It really touched me, and I think it's because they talked so much about mental health, and that's something that I'm really on a mental health journey right now, something that I'm going through right now. So I think it touched me a little bit more than maybe it would have at other times of life, but I loved it. Then I also loved Part of Your World, which is a contemporary romance, and this is the first of a standalone trilogy. Then I also loved The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which is a historical fiction / LGBTQIA plus book. Oh my gosh, this book is so popular for good reason. It is so good. Then I also loved The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. Most people know who Anne Frank is and a lot about her story, but it is from the Holocaust. It's a nonfiction, and it's like a biography and a memoir in one, and it is a classic, and I loved it. Then I also loved Becoming by Michelle Obama, which is a nonfiction autobiography, and it is kind of touches on things like feminism, politics, but just like her life in general. Then I also loved Verity, which is a book that so many people love. It's very popular for good reason. It's a mystery thriller / romance book. It's by Colleen Hoover. It's different than a lot of her other books. Supposedly, I haven't read many of hers, but it was a great book. Then the last one on this list I have is Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, which is by Matthew Perry, and he has since passed away. It is a nonfiction, and it's kind of like a memoir / autobiography, and it really talks a lot about his mental health and his struggles with alcohol and drug abuse. Then I just thought I'd talk about some of the books that I was disappointed by that I've read so far in 2024. I was disappointed maybe because other people said they were really good, or they're just reviewed really well, or they're classics or things like that. So the first one is Jane Eyre, and a lot of people love this book, but I just could not get into it. I was listening to the audiobook, which maybe that's part of the problem, but my sister said she loved listening to the audiobook version. I don't know, I just couldn't do it. I tried so hard. I got to like 60-something% through, and then I just decided to DNF it, and I looked up what the rest of the story was, and it definitely gets more interesting, but it wasn't enough for me. I wasn't sad that I didn't keep reading it, so I'm just a little bummed that it wasn't, it was just so slow for me. Another one is The House Across the Lake, which is a pretty popular book too. It's a much more recent book. Obviously, Jane Eyre is much older. But The House Across the Lake, I just thought was going to be a little bit better than it was. Another one is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. This one I didn't have high hopes for because other people said it's really good, but I just thought it sounded really good itself, and it just didn't do it for me. Another one that is a classic is Little Women, and some people might be upset by this one too, but it just wasn't for me. I did finish the whole thing. I didn't DNF it. The only one I DNF'd in this whole list was Jane Eyre. Then the last one I have in this list is Pet Sematary by Stephen King, and I know he said that this is one of his scariest books that he's ever written, but I did not even get scared, and usually I get really scared by like horror stuff, like movies, things like that. Like sometimes I don't even want to watch them because I know I'm going to get scared. So I just was a little bit bummed that I didn't get very freaked out by it. I thought it would also be fun to talk about some of the books that I liked to read as a kid. I like hearing the books that other people like to read as kids. A lot of people, it's like Hunger Games and Twilight and things like that. I actually never read Hunger Games, Twilight, or Harry Potter. Obviously 3 of the biggest series to read as a kid, but I've read some of these other ones. So I did like to read a lot of the R.L. Stine books. I liked the ones, not the kid ones as much, but I liked the ones that were more for like teenagers. I really don't remember what they were called, but if you know what I'm talking about, you'll know. I also liked to read Nancy Drew books, and I'm actually collecting older copies now, and it's really fun. I'm just slowly kind of collecting the series as I find them at used bookstores. And yesterday I just purchased 2 books that were printed in 1951, so they're not even the yellow covers. It's so freaking cool. And then also my sisters and I always used to play the games. I actually played it with my dad when I was younger, and then my 2 younger sisters and I have played the games since then, and we've played them as adults, and it's so fun. Then I also really liked the Hardy Boys. I actually probably read more Hardy Boys books than I did Nancy Drew books, but I just loved the like little mystery young adult books. I also loved reading John Green books. If I remember correctly, I really liked Looking for Alaska. I don't remember exactly kind of, like what I would have rated all of them because I didn't really care about that back then, but I read so many of his. Then I also really liked fantasy / dystopian / sci-fi books. 2 examples of this are the Uglies series and The Last Dragon Chronicles. And what I'm currently reading is Somewhere Beyond the Sea, which is the second book in the series of The House in the Cerulean Sea, which was, again, one of my favorite books that I've ever read. And so far, I'm loving it. I'm a quarter of the way through, and it's so freaking good. And then I'm also listening to an audiobook by Barack Obama. I'm listening to his book, A Promised Land, and it's quite long, but it is a good book. Then I just thought I'd talk about a couple books that I am excited to read throughout the rest of 2024. And the first one is literally 7 books, the Harry Potter series. I would love to be able to finish this before the year ends. I don't know if I'm actually going to be able to accomplish that because as the series goes on, I know the books get huge, but it is shocking that I've never read these books. I just didn't really care to read too much when I was a kid, and I read for school. Like those other books I was telling you, I read those for school. I didn't really read on my own. The only ones I read on my own were the John Green books pretty much. But I love the movies. I watch them every year. I love going to Harry Potter World the few times that I've been. I love playing Harry Potter games like the Lego Harry Potter I played a lot as a kid. And then now I'm currently playing the Hogwarts Legacy game, which is so much fun. And then I'm also excited to just read a couple Christmas books because this is my first year really being a reader, and I've never really read specifically Christmas books. So if you have any recommendations, please list them down below because I'm really looking for some ideas. A couple that I have in mind are Blame It on the Mistletoe by Eli Easton, In a Holidays by Christina Lauren. I do have the In a Holidays book. I got it from the thrift store the other day. And then 2 that I'm kind of trying to decide between are Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey and All I Want Is You by Fallon Ballard. So if you have read either of those, let me know which one you liked more, which one you think I might like. I usually read a lot of contemporary romance books and just contemporary in general, but I really do also like fantasy, and I like mystery thrillers, and I know those are technically 2 different genres, but mysteries and thrillers. I do also like some nonfiction books. As you can tell, I like a couple historical fiction books. I wish I liked classics more, but I just don't think I'm as into classics as I wish I was. And I do like some young adult books, so that's kind of my overview. If you want to see what I'm currently reading and obviously I told you, but like keep up with it and like see my challenge for the year, all that kind of stuff, then you should definitely follow my Goodreads or my Storygraph account, which are linked in my YouTube channel. If you go to the About section, you'll see that there. But let me know what you're reading and what you're excited to read for the rest of the year, or maybe some books you're excited to read in 2025. You can just comment this down below. I would love to chat with you guys about it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. It's a little different than other videos I've done, but my channel has grown to be about like home care and organization and cleaning and decluttering and decorating and all that kind of stuff. But then this year I really added in a lot more book videos because that's just something that I love and is important to me. So I hope you enjoy. I hope you take care, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.